And we're live. We're on.
Was Hiroshi there?
Hiroshi, take it away.
Yep. I think Hiroshi's sleeping.
We got the intro bit done?
Oh, yeah, we should do that too.
Right into it.
Okay. Welcome to Late Night Dominion with your hosts, Evion, Beetle, Blank Base, and myself, Hiroshi. Tonight's special guests are Matt Mocarski from Carbine Studios, a creative arts director, and we also have Evion, an amazing community artist. I'm going to hand over to Beetle, our chief art correspondent.
All right, guys, how's everybody doing tonight? As we see here, we've got Carbine on the line. We've got Matt Mocarski, and we're just going to go over a couple questions here. If you guys have questions in the Twitch chat, be sure to put them in here. We will be taking questions at the end of the night here, and we'll do some Q&A. We're just going to start off here. Matt, if you could just describe your position at Carbine for everybody in the chat here.
Well, my position primarily is as art director, which for a game this size actually means quite a bit. So I'm basically in charge of all the visuals on the game. I have a team of 9 sub-teams, everything from animation to cinematics to concept art to marketing art, you name it. If it's visual, most likely I'm in charge of it, or in charge of the people in charge of it. On top of that, I'm also the creative director for the project, so I get to do all the fun stuff like come up with cool, crazy stories and characters and just make sure that, kind of the keeper of the personality too, like making sure that whatever we do with Wildstar, it has that Wildstar personality and it kind of has that fun and making sure everybody is getting enough of that. Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool.
Every now and again,
I'm sure there's... Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Every now and again, I do a little bit of art. So on top of all that managing, I actually get to stay late and paint icons and stuff like that. So I'm still officially an artist too.
That's what I was going to say. By the time you get a position like you're not even opening up Photoshop or anything else anymore besides to take a look at everybody else's stuff.
Yeah, barely.
You get to herd all this artist cats.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm sure there's a bunch of people in chat that probably want to have your job someday. I know myself, I aspire to be a designer myself. What was your inspirations or what got you into art, let's say in general, or video game art?
Okay, I can cover that. Well, it's kind of a weird thing. I don't know where it came from, but as a kid, I was always an artist. And ever since, I think my mom still has the picture that I did in first grade of a school bus, and they're like, wow, your kid can draw. And ever since then, whenever I liked that idea, and ever since then, when anybody asked me, hey, what do you want to do when you grow up, I was like, I want to be an artist. But I really didn't know what that meant, right? I just knew it. I like to draw. And I was always a gamer, even back to like Apple and Commodore stuff. So I always played games, always read comic books, always watched animation. And really comic books were the deciding factor for me in high school that this is what I want to do for a living. I don't care about school. I don't care about anything. I just want to be a comic book artist. And unfortunately, I grew up in like a small town in the Midwest, so no one knew, there wasn't any formal training or anything. So I would just draw in my basement, and I sucked at it and couldn't get a job out of school as a comic book artist. So I'm a failed comic book artist. And then I decided to go into computer animation. And pretty much that was when the computer animation field was just kind of blossoming, and the schools were just starting to teach it. And all my buddies, we all learned how to do 3D animation, and there wasn't any game programs at the time. But after we graduated, all the game studios were picking up people that knew any type of 3D whatsoever. Because this is the time when Tomb Raider had just come out, the N64 had just come out, so all the games were making that transfer to 3D, and nobody knew how to do it. So I actually kind of did a quick jaunt into television animation, and then after that, after a few years there, all my buddies and all my friends were like, games are awesome, and I started hanging out with them, and I started going to the studio and just playing LAN games of like Quake and Age of Empires and StarCraft, and I was like, hey, this is really cool. And then a job came up, and they're like, hey, do you want a job here? And I was like, sure. And I tested, and that kind of got me into the industry. So, it's not, now it's all very organized. Now people, they go to school for 4 years, and they learn to actually make games in school. Their assets that come out of these schools are amazing. A lot of the kids coming out of schools, it's like, wow, we could put that in our game today. Back then we didn't even know how to texture map stuff. And, so I kind of got lucky because I came in at that time. But yeah, that's pretty much what set me down my path. And I've been in the games industry for about 14 years now. So.
Yeah, so you're something more along the lines of what they call like the old generation of game design. I had a couple of friends that worked at like Acclaim. Yeah, I had a friend, family friend that worked on like Turok at Acclaim, and I was like, "What'd you go to school for?" Yeah. He's like, "I went to school for everything that had to do with art and like 3D, just because I wanted to do stuff. There wasn't a game design course at my time. You guys got it easy. You're coming out, like you said, with stuff that could almost go in a game because we have so much time to work it on." Let's see. You mentioned comic book artist. I love comics. Let's get it. Let's do a quick little question based on that.
Geek out.
Let's. Oh boy, hang on.
Man, really?
Hang on, I had to reach for it. Oh, is that certified autographed? No.
Is someone going to start doing
That's not that.
voice?
Oh, nice.
That's not that geeky because it wasn't even based on the real Bane. What was your favorite comic book character or publisher, let's say?
Oh, what is or what was?
Is. Or let's do young Matt and old Matt. How about that?
Okay, this'll be fun. Young Matt, probably I'd have to say X-Men and Daredevil. X-Men being the Claremont Silvestri period. I love Jim Lee. Jim Lee's great, but that time before Jim Lee with Mark Silvestri, that's like the golden age for me. The Inferno and Fall of the Mutants, and sorry, I'm really geeking out here throwing out some names like that.
It feels good. It feels good, doesn't it?
But yeah, I loved Havoc and Dazzler and Rogue, and kind of when the X-Men didn't have like their mansion, they were off in Australia and stuff like that, like doing crazy stuff. I really loved that time because it was really just about like they really were hated and there was this prejudice and I don't know, like I just loved the cast of characters. Daredevil was like kind of like the opposite of that. It was like that gritty time. I think I got into Daredevil when it was like the John Romita Jr. Time period where like he was down and out and he like went to hell and back and just,
it wasn't nearly as pretty as X-Men was. It was more like you said, gritty.
I like my heroes in the worst of times. I think because it made me feel better about my life or something. I didn't necessarily like the big things like Infinity Gauntlet where it's just like a throwdown and stuff like that. But that was kind of my young period, but I was really into Image Comics too. I was an Image Comics nerd when that like it's kind of weird because I love those guys and I've actually had the chance to meet them and become friends with a few of those guys. But like people like Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee and Whilce Portacio and even Rob Liefeld, believe it or not, which, looking back at Rob's work now as an artist, I'm like, yeah, like, wow, like that was way off. But there was something that made everybody excited about it when I was a teenager. And so I liked that flashy stuff. And because of Image Comics, that was what actually made me think, hey, I could do this and I could make money doing this, because no one really talked about the money side of creating comics until Image said, hey, we could be making more money doing this, right? And you're like, really? You make money doing that? You know? But nowadays, you know, when I get it, I read a lot on my iPad. So I just bought an iPad like last year, a Generation 3. I know I'm a late adapter, but I stopped buying a lot of comics because it just fills up. I have like something like 15 giant boxes, and I move them from place to place, and it's just like that. It's just a pain in the ass. So I stopped buying them. Yeah. So like, but the thing I've kept up with is Walking Dead. Like Walking Dead, like amazing book, and I've been with it since the beginning. And I'm not a big fan of the show. The show disappoints me at every angle because I'm just like, why didn't they do what they do in the book? You know, so I'm that guy. And, but I read Walking Dead, and now that I have the iPad, I've been getting into a lot of stuff. Like, I've been reading a lot of old stuff, so that I never read before as a kid. So I just bought like 200 issues of Hellblazer. I've started reading that. Yeah. That's really awesome. And The Boys was really good. As far as new books go, Saga, the new Brian K. Vaughan book, is really interesting. I like it because, like with comics, I look at comics both from a story standpoint and from a visual standpoint as what I want to see out of games, right? Like, I want every comic book artist has this signature art style, right? And like, you know, for a long time, it's getting better now actually, but for a long time there were only maybe like 5 core art styles for games. And when you would start making a game, it's like, okay, are you going to make it cartoony? Are you going to make it, you know, gritty? Are you going to make it realistic? And that was pretty much it. And it's like, wow, these artists have thousands of art styles that are their own. And so I really like that. But I also think that comics it's weird. Like with games and film, you have to have these huge budgets to realize these worlds. With comics, it's just an artist putting down something on paper, and they can make the most epic blockbuster of them all, and it didn't cost a penny more to publish that book than another one, unless you're paying out the ass for an awesome artist. In terms of artists, though, nowadays, I really like Bill Sienkiewicz. I just love his work. I think I learned his name maybe like 10 years ago, but I'm a big fan of his. Mignola, like Hellboy. Who doesn't like Hellboy, right? So. And let me think. I'm not sure I had the last name pronounced right, but Chris Bachalo. He does like a lot of X books. But he's amazing. He did his own creator-owned book called Steampunk and all that stuff. But yeah. I mean, there's great stuff to be found everywhere out there, and you just need someone directing you toward that. So I like to read a variety now, I guess.
Definitely. It's safe to say a lot of your inspiration would come from comics growing up. And with a couple comments on it, Rob Liefeld, I think he's going crazy is what people are trying to say now. He's getting senile or something like that. And I'm sure we went over Blank Space's head with all the comic talk. And when you said you liked Walking Dead, the Walking Dead book, people don't live as long as they do in the show. Half those characters that are in the show are just gone in the book. So, but yeah, definitely. I mean, if we could have a comic book vodcast, I bet you and me could go back and forth all day.
Oh my God.
Video games, Wildstar is what we're looking at.
Let's get back to it. I think David's looking at me like, let's talk about the game, Matt. You know.
We've got, just for anybody tuning in, we got Matt.
Let's go gamer now.
Yeah, let's go back to some games here. Let's go with something, another general one. We'll see how much you can talk about this. Let's talk about your favorite part of the game for people in this chat here.
Ooh, that's tough. Do you want it from a player, like what my favorite design aspect, or from a creator?
Yeah, let's do a feature or mechanic standpoint.
Okay. My favorite feature is probably, let me think. Probably housing, and I'm a little biased because I had a lot to do with that, but
it's
just, like it's this thing where when we started developing the game and we knew we were going to do an MMO, we didn't even mention it. Like it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, after we launch and, like pretty much I would imagine, just like it was, on WoW, it's just kind of like, yeah, somewhere down the road we're going to have housing,
Mm-hmm.
And we got this technology that we call sockets and plugs, and we were doing it for this other feature, and we saw that we could really use this to do housing and customization. And so when that got forward, we kind of did this baseline, and then we handed it off to a team, and now what they've created with it, it's like its own game. Like people do stuff with it internally that I never imagined it going. So I get giddy all the time and with it, and like people are so passionate about it that I have a lead artist and he's worked to death, and he just showed us this one thing that he did in his spare time. He made a Ferris wheel, out of found assets, and he actually animated the lights going up and down it like really intricate. And I was like, oh, that would be. I saw in the thing. I was like, dude, that's awesome. I was like, that'd be awesome if you could ride it. And he was like, yeah, you could ride it. Like the designer is designing it to make it rideable. And I was like, wow, that's just, people are gonna want that, And then it spawned this conversation, because with housing we're letting it get a little beyond the IP of the game. We just want people to have fun with it. We don't want to jump the shark on it, although it would be funny to have a shark tank that you could jump over. But
expansion pack.
Yeah, like that one thing that the artist did, the one Ferris wheel, is like, I said, what we should do? We should do because housing's in the sky and it floats. I was like, we should do a whole roller coaster, and it goes like around the outside of your housing plot, and you could just ride it and look at your housing plot. And he's like, yeah, we could totally do that. And it's just that type of like spur of the moment ideas and passion and stuff that I love about housing, because pretty much anything goes. As long as it's cool and you think people are going to like it, we're going to put it in the game.
Right.
So whereas, with the normal game, as creative director, I definitely have to tell people no a lot, and I want it to, we have to tell a story. We have to make sure that, that people understand the world groups and the themes and stuff like that we're trying to get across. So you got to be a little more heavy-handed when it comes to the content in the game and in the dungeons and stuff. We still have fun, but it's more of a controlled, planned fun, and housing's kind of off the rails.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know how many times you say no when you have 20-foot football players walking around. That didn't seem like it was coming through the workflow real quick there, but
well, you wouldn't think it, but I say no a lot. And especially, the designers, they'll come up to me and they'll sneak in and they're testing the waters they're trying to sell me on it. And, sometimes I'm like, yeah, that's fine. And then sometimes I'm like, no, you can't do that, And,
right.
But I do say no quite a bit. These guys, they come up with some crazy shit, So you got to keep it reeled in every now and again. But with housing, we let them run free, I think.
Yeah, and that's one of the better things with that. Like you're saying, the socket system is great, but the free placement within the house, you're going to see things in beta and early launch that you never thought that your testers would have seen. You're going to see shelving systems that what do they call those? Now I'm just being dumb again. But you're gonna see Rube Goldberg machines. That's what you're gonna see. Rube Goldberg machines, like in the side of houses, dropping cans. I mean, it really lends itself to player creativity, and that's what we love about it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I wish I could. You know, our first tests were incredible, and I was like, "What? How did they make that?" You know, and it's terrifying and exciting at the same time to see what people are going to do with it.
Right. I think at this time I'm going to open it up here. I'm an artist myself, but I'm hosting right now, so I'm not going to ask you any of my little personal questions. But Evion, if you've got any questions for the art man himself, I know you're one of the great community artists we have around Wildstar Central, stuff like that. Let's give you guys some little one-on-one here. You got anything?
All right.
I don't know, you asked some of the major ones, like the inspiration, that sort of stuff, but I'll go ahead and ask you a question that I got thrown at me on Nexus Weekly. Do you have a favorite color?
A favorite color?
This is an intense question, folks. Hold on. He's got to see if he can answer this one.
That's a rough one. That's a little personal, don't you think?
This is make or break. I'm hovering over hang up on you right now, so get ready.
You know, it's between blue and green. I wear a lot of blue because my eyes are blue, and so I'd say probably blue. Blue. I'll go blue. There's a lot of blue in the game.
Very nice.
Not as art-based as I thought Evion would come up with, but we went over most of the basics.
I think someone was expecting me to throw out like a Pantone color or something like that, but no, just blue.
My favorite color is black because my soul.
Was it like FX001 or something like that?
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what
32_B.
Next time I got to be prepared for that question, and I'm gonna have that exact Pantone or the RGB value of my color. So
bring up the color picker and everything for you.
Yeah.
That's me just messing up
it's
the
like
show.
a mini
Sorry
game.
about that.
Let's.
Vito, I had a question.
I was gonna ask him our question blank if it's the one you're thinking of.
I'm thinking of too.
Top secret recruit one.
Top secret recruit.
Go ahead.
All right, this is just a silly question that we do for guild applications. Here we go. I've been drinking. What is your favorite cereal, Matt?
Cereal what?
What's your favorite cereal?
Cereal.
You know, you put it in a bowl.
Oh,
with milk.
So I'll tell you that my favorite used to be Boo Berry cereal. Remember Boo Berry? This is before
I'm not old enough for that.
Do you guys know?
I know of it.
So you know Count Chocula and Frankenberry cereal?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they got together. They got together and had a kid, and then
they used to have a version called Boo Berry, which was the Blue Ghost, and it was blueberry flavored, but they discontinued it. And look, at this point, I think once again going back to the color blue, coming full circle, is that
here we go.
I loved everything blue when I was a kid, and I think it comes from Luke and Aunt Beru having blue milk in the original Star Wars. And I just like, oh, cool. Any food or drink that was blue, I was in, you know? So I love Boo Berry cereal. But after that, I'd probably say probably Fruity Pebbles, just because you could drink the milk and it was just like this sugar rush of crazy liquid.
It was another tasty treat is what it was. That's all that was.
Yeah.
These are the hard-hitting questions that when you come to Late Night Dominion, you get the answers to.
I know.
People on Twitch are like, you better ask him the cereal, and it better have to do with Star Wars right now. That was as good as a nerdy answer as I would have come up with. I love that. The milk.
Yeah, so everybody's Googling Boo Berry right now, I bet.
Yeah, they're all. I mean, Count Chocula was even out there for me. I bought like a Count Chocula shirt at a thrift shop, and my little brother was like, "Dude, what's Count Chocula?" I was like, "You don't even know."
The great thing about Boo Berry is like he had like this barbershop quartet hat and like a red bow tie. And I'm just like, really? Is he going to sing with his quartet afterward, you know?
Yeah, I can't believe they canceled it.
I know.
That's weird.
Maybe we can bring it back right here today. We're bringing it back.
Yeah, all right. We'll start signing the petition.
Also
We'll get
cereal.
Nixus
We
to
hear it
bring
here.
that up.
Kellogg's, listen to me. Is Kellogg's, is that right? Is Frankenberry and Count Chocula?
Yeah, we have
Kellogg's?
at least 4 Kellogg's reps in chat right now. By far. Easily. I think that's enough personal questions for now. I think I'm gonna push it off to blank space. But blank, if you want to hint at what we've got to show tonight as well.
Got it.
And then we'll have some more Q&A. Anybody in chat that's got anything for Matt, as long as he stays awake, we'll get back to the Q&A at the end.
Pizza.
Yeah, you know, good stuff.
Toothpaste.
About the game.
The last one I have that's on topic is for both of you. I found this interesting while listening to you talk. I wanted to know about, what the difference is when you're sitting down to make a game or you're sitting down to draw something and you have absolutely no reference. You can just create anything, and how different and challenging that must be from somebody like Evion who's taking art and then creating from what she sees. And maybe, you could talk about how it is for you, and then she can describe what it's like to be like, well, they made this and now I'm creating based off of that, and how that kind of process works, because I thought that was really interesting.
I guess I could give the amateur's perspective of it first. Let's see if Matt's matches up with mine. But if I'm ever doing anything without reference, it's open up a big white page in Photoshop, and I do what you call, I call it shadowing. Matt, you might have another term for it. Just blocking out just black, coming back in with the eraser and looking for those good lines on the edge for a character, for a mech, for a type of creature. Yeah. What do you got?
So I think for me, and I think this is partially why why I was attracted to being a game artist and being a technical artist in some aspect, is that although I'm an artist, I have a very analytical mind. Okay, so it's kind of a joke around the office. They say like I can't take a dump without scheduling it. So, because I schedule everything. I'm like, I need a schedule. I need a time frame. Blah blah blah. Right. So even when I just sit down and I'm like, okay, I'm going to draw something out, I almost have a game plan in my head already. I very rarely go to the Cintiq or the Wacom or whatever and go, what am I drawing tonight? Because usually if I do that, I'll noodle too much and I'm not getting anything done. So usually I'll go to it and I'll be like, oh, I feel like drawing mechs, or I feel like drawing Star Wars, or, something like that. And like my brain, just the way it works is it just starts breaking it down. And so I just try to get something down on paper. And I've always said that for me, I've never been a great artist, but I always know what's wrong with everything, right? So what I'll usually do is I'll get something down on paper super fast, and then I could look at it and I could be like, I know what's wrong with my own drawing, or I know what I want to fix about that, and then I'll go over it again, and then I'll look at it again. So for me, that's kind of my creative process. I know a lot of artists work with that. They just kind of start throwing stuff down and they'll pick stuff out of that works. And you do that to a certain point. Like usually I'll if I'm doing a character or something, I'll start with a rough character and then I'll just start playing with silhouette and just say, okay, I want a cool silhouette of this, and I'll try different things.
Silhouette.
To get the silhouette.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah. But I think in terms of when you make a game, I think you always have, you start with an intention, right? Whether your intention's as broad as, I want to make a game, what type of game, an MMO, and all of a sudden you lay out everything that is the core of an MMO, right? And then you start saying, okay, what do we want to do? Or it could even start with, I have a really cool idea for combat. Can I build a game around that? I've always, like, for me, the biggest challenge that, I'm wrestling with just as a interesting exercise. This has nothing to do with Wildstar, by the way, so I don't want people to go, oh, Wildstar is going to have this. This is just in my free
Comics
time.
will have it.
I'm like, how do you design a game about time travel that is actually the game of time travel that people want? Sure, you could design a game about time travel where people go back in time and it's all it's all a story that they're telling. But can you actually design a time travel game where you could go back and you could kill the T-Rex and then that changes everything when you go back to the future and it just fucks with time and you could just literally like mess up the world because of all these variables that you could change, and it's kind of a sandbox. Can you make a game out of that? And I know from the technical side, it's almost like it's improbable. Someone will figure it out one day. But I like coming to the table with a problem that you want to solve, right? For example, and I'm going to start talking a little bit about Wildstar. Like, for example, we looked at MMO combat, right? And we come to the table and we're like, okay, we don't want just typical combat. What could we do? And a lot of us are big gamers and we like, action combat, like God of War and stuff like that. And then the first question you ask is, can we do that type of thing in an MMO? And what would it take? And so then you start breaking down, first thing you have to do is ask programmers, what can we do? What could we do with the tech, within the limits of the tech, or what type of new tech would we have to develop? And then if the programmers say, yeah, you could do it, then a designer on paper will start designing it out and trying to figure out the logistics and everything. So I think there's always an intent, right? When you're developing a game. And for me, my personal art process is kind of the same way. I always go to the page with some intention of, I'm going to make a Christmas card, for my mom or whatever. And then you're sitting down, you're like, okay, it needs Santa Claus, it needs a Christmas tree, like that's just how my brain works. And I think that is actually what has made me a pretty effective art director, because when we say, oh, let's make a lava zone, instantly in my head is like, okay, we need volcano, we need, lava rocks, lava flows, everything. And you break that down, then you sit down with the concept artist and you give them that list. And you're like, here's what I want to make sure we hit, this, this, and this. And then you might say, but I also want you to blue sky new ideas that aren't on this list, so you can make it a little bit cool and interesting. Or you might have an idea and you're like, hey, I want instead of, volcanoes, I want, like floating rocks that it has volcano or lava waterfalls or something like that, you might already have a vision in your head of what you want to do with a lava zone, but yeah, my head just constantly breaks it out, into those little lists and those little intentions. So
definitely. Yeah. Awesome. I mean, you're giving awesome answers so far, man. I mean, the more that we don't have to talk and the more they can hear from their dev is just great. And you guys heard here, lava waterfalls confirmed for the game.
There's going to be zones of lava rocks.
As soon as you said time travel is not talking about Wildstar, they all said time travel confirmed in chat. So you're gonna have to fast track that in. Sorry.
Yeah.
And
I think the time travel on the dump schedule's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I figure you could maybe talk a little bit, Evion, too, about how that process works for you. Before we get that answer, I do want to let people know to hold on. The end of the show, we have some really cool stuff that the Carbine Studios has allowed us to show you. So at the end of the show, we're going to have kind of a cool little collection of safe things to put out there. So make sure to hang on to the end.
We've got some never before seen goodies at the end of the show, and you're going to be so happy when you see them. You're going to smile. Yeah.
Wow, a whole smile.
Like one whole smile. And let's get
You'll dance.
Evion.
You'll dance.
Let's get
You'll dance.
let's get your little how you work
Little
through
dance.
your drawings, and I think Hiroshi has a question. I don't know if Hiroshi really wants to answer that or ask that. But
I know my question is very important, so I'll ask it.
Okay. You will ask it?
Yep.
Alright,
I'm
so
ready.
you want to
Go
ask
for
it
it.
after Evion talks, or right now?
Yeah, let everyone go first, and then we'll address this really important question.
Oh my
Alright, Evion,
god.
let's hear the workflow for these community art things you got going.
Well, actually, I start pretty similar in that I need to have some kind of visualization before I'm able to actually start working on artwork. I can't just open up a canvas and start from there, because I'll end up staring at the canvas and be like, kind of thing. And so even if, so usually I'll start off by drawing a circle because I want to draw a figure or something like that. So I'll start with the head, which not the best practice, but that's usually what I've been doing for the portraits, that kind of thing. But usually I'll have an idea is like, I want to draw a figure, I want to draw a house, something of that sort. And if I don't know exactly what I want to draw, I might go look through my collection of reference pictures, that kind of thing, for interesting poses or color schemes, that kind of stuff, something to spark my inspiration, and then be able to kind of leap from there into doing the artwork side of things. And so it's been a lot of fun doing the Wildstar portraits for people, because it's really neat to look at the Wildstar artwork with the vibrant colors and the really crazy character designs like the Draken, that kind of thing. And to take that and to look at the style that's in the Wildstar stuff, see what features really stand out, and then see what I can do in terms of balancing it with my own style. For example, on the recent Draken picture that I did, I noticed that they had some very pronounced cheekbones, that kind of thing. And so that's something that I was pushing on him in terms of having the just the stronger features there, as well as like the really, really strong jawline. The Draken have those strong jaws type of thing. And so that was very fun. But then I didn't really emphasize the horns enough. I didn't make them quite as large as in some of the Carbine's concept art. So it's kind of a balance there in terms of keeping my style and balancing it with the Wildstar stuff. Kind of doing my own interpretation there.
Definitely. Yeah. And you got some great stuff. And with that portrait, I know you just mentioned the horns. I mean, the horns were going off the top anyway. You just needed to imply that they were there. So, plus, Matt, we haven't seen many horn styles. I mean, I'd like to. Well,
Well, we did see the one with the female Draken, but yeah, we have.
Save it.
Scooter's looking at Matt right now. He's like, don't
I
tell
know,
him about the horns.
Just to add to that, for all you aspiring illustrators out there or concept artists, because I used to think this when I was young, before I got into the industry and college and stuff, is that I used to think that what made a good artist was someone that could just draw something from their head, right? And I don't know why I had this idea in my head as a kid. No one told me that or anything like that. You just assume, like, you know, you tell a really good artist, you tell them to draw like you know, a Corvette. They just draw it, you know, and they get it perfect, right? And that's what I always used to think it was. And then what you find is everybody uses reference. There are very few people. I've met a few people in my entire life that were just these amazing artists that don't use reference, that just go right to the blank page and stuff. So finding the inspiration or finding a piece of art that you're trying to mimic or stuff like that. Like going back to the comics thing, Alex Ross, one of the finest painters in comics, and whose signature was creating these realistic versions of superheroes, like how they'd look in real life. You know, when you first saw his work, you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. And he is amazing. But he would literally dress up models that had the exact same proportions in costumes he designed. And then he would take reference photographs from that for each of his panels and paint it. So even a guy that's at the top of the industry, whose work sells for, I'm fairly sure, hundreds of thousands of dollars at times, like, it's not, I used to think it was a shameful thing if I had to look at a picture to draw it.
Right.
Yep. And you couldn't be more wrong. So I've done some teaching in my time, and the first thing you do is you tell people, use reference. Find your reference. Where's your reference? Is it on your table? Get out your art books. Get out your, and even on our front, like, anywhere I've worked, whether it was Blizzard or here or anything, we have art books. We look at how Disney paints their background paintings to paint textures, like there's not this really level of like you're a professional, so you're above that. It's really important, and it's important. And once you build a library of your own work, like for Wildstar, we have thousands of concepts. Then when you bring in a new artist, the first thing you say is make sure you are looking at these concepts and these reference when you're making new art,
Definitely.
So just a message to all you budding artists out there, use your reference and use as much of it as you can.
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely. One of the biggest things, I don't have a ton of time to draw nowadays with trying to, work and do temp stuff around, the game industry and stuff, but when I was 16, I finally came to this conclusion, like Matt was saying, was I can use reference. And I'm a Midwest kid as well, and I lived in Minneapolis, and I used to walk down, get rides, taxis to the Timberwolves games, and I would draw these NBA basketball players that would come in, and I'd go early enough that I would ask for their autographs on them, and I would only draw them from basketball cards, and a couple of guys actually took them. Kobe Bryant has one of my drawings. He probably threw it away somewhere. But it just comes down to that. I'm not any big shot artist. Take my thing with a grain of salt. I love drawing. I did that stuff for years, and I still want to do it. But don't be afraid to use a reference. Exactly what he said.
Yeah.
Hiroshi, go ahead and ask your question. I don't know if Matt's going to be able to answer that, but
yeah, it may be a tough one. It sort of came out of our show last week. A lot of people are throwing around the idea, and the answer to this is going to be yes. But is Beetle's beard going to be in the game as an option for Macari?
They want my beard.
Your beard
to be a customization from Macari.
Yeah.
Well, the Macari don't really have beards per se. They kind of have like these what we
That's
call
not a yes, Matt.
We call them mandibles. So they have like tons of stuff. So I don't know. I think that option might show up on a different race that maybe I can't talk about, but definitely not on the Macari. I'm sorry.
I don't think it work with the bunny ears though.
Let's just make it a drop with a helmet that just has a beard on the front of it or something.
Yeah. You caught me. The Orin females have beards.
I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah. Exclusive hit.
Well, great.
There you go.
All right.
Exclusive here.
What you can do is the Macari can, harvest the ears off of the Orin that they defeat to create their own beard. Go.
Nice.
There you go.
Perfect.
That's like I said, maybe a helmet that has a beard built in it, and you can put it on the Macari. Maybe.
Yeah. So
we'll figure it out.
Unconfirmed race with my beard is confirmed. So if everybody can figure that out, it's there. Yeah, I'm gonna let Blank take over. Let's talk about some other stuff. Blank, go ahead.
Already. Nixus, get ready to do some work. If you guys can hold on to questions for a little bit, or know that Nixus is going to get to them in a second. He's going to be pumping out some information to you. We wanted to go over, briefly, some of the stuff that happened this week. So there was quite a lot of information about the EU ARC ship. The first link that we're going to put out here for you is going to be Storm Talon layer pictures. And not quite sure where that one was put up. There was also...
Those are put up by Black Wolf, I believe, from Wildstar Central.
We kind of threw this whole show together, so our document's a little discombobulated, doing the best we can. The next one that you're going to get here from Nixus is an interview with Christopher. I'm going to mess that up.
Barons.
Help me out. Come on.
Barons.
Barons?
Yeah.
Barons?
Yeah. Barons.
There we go. It was an interview that was also done by question mark. Somebody's in trouble. But we're going to move along a little bit to the engine interview that was done by Sam.
Surge.
Thank you.
MMORPG Life.
Says
go.
Scooter from off screen.
So
do you guys?
Who was that?
I did.
Did you see that? It was redacted. We needed like something to move across when he came, like, or just a Chad head. I don't know if you guys saw that thread, but if he had a Chad head, that would have been the best ever.
And no one can see because Matt's too close, but I think Dave has his hand on his leg, just ready to just squeeze him if he says anything wrong. Nope.
To get slapped. He's like, and so let me tell you about.
We're actually holding hands.
That makes more sense.
Holding hands. See?
Perfect.
There it is.
Aww.
My hands are here.
My hands are they're right there.
Do you guys want to talk about Stormtown a little bit? Do you guys just want to look at the art or do you want to talk about
Stormtown, Matt? Matt, let's talk about Stormtown.
What would you like to know?
Matt, I'd like to know, is my beard drop off the final boss in Storm? I'm kidding. Let's see what I can pry from you. Stormtalon. We've seen from the screenshots that look to be some sort of undead type enemy. Any little bit of story? Why are we at Stormtalon's lair? What's the deal there? Bring it.
So I'm not sure. You know what? I'm taking a risk here, but I'm going to talk a little bit about these guys. I don't know if we've talked about them before. So there's a group of beings called the Pell. That's Pell. And they look a little undead. They're not undead. They're almost like these techno shaman. Okay, so they've been on Nexus for a very long time, and the story behind them is they were kind of these beings that they were helpers of the Eldan. So like they've been on Nexus for that long, but they weren't too bright, right? So when the Eldan disappeared, however that may have happened, these guys kind of devolved. And they lost their ability to use the technology that they used to know and understand. So they kind of have become these semi-scavenger, primitive techno-wizards, right? That they're trying to use the Eldan technology, but they use it in kind of a demented way. And, think of it like they try to hook up a car battery to some kind of, like weather machine or something and try to get it to work, and it just makes things go amok. So the story behind Stormtalon, which for all of you out there that don't know what Stormtalon is, it's actually one of our first dungeons in the game. It's a 5-man dungeon. It's around level 20. Yeah.
22.
So pretty early on in the game, you'll be able to experience Stormtalon. And what they're doing is the Pell worship anything from the Eldan, and the Eldan experimented with a lot of primal elements on the planet. And they are trying to create their own version of a wind god that is on the planet. So you'll see kind of like this orange sack, and that's the birthing sack that they made to create their god. And they're using this technology in order to, kind of speed up the incubation period of their god.
I'm just expecting Scooter to just jump in and be like, I'm going to let you finish, but we're in beta.
So that's the story behind Stormtalon and the Pell. And the Pell actually show up quite a bit in the game. And there's different tribes of Pell that worship different things. So And, you know, sometimes they're friendly or docile, I should say, and sometimes you got to open up a can of whoop ass on them, you know?
So they're basically techno wizards that didn't have their routine maintenance because the Eldan, excuse me, and now they're just going crazy.
Yeah, maybe techno shaman is probably better. So
yeah,
so
we've already quoted techno shaman as the last playable race or class. Sorry, so that's confirmed.
Yeah.
And
according to chat, of course, you know.
So I like the Pell, in my opinion, look a lot like the Skeksis from Dark Crystal. So they kind of have that creepy, weird vibe, you know. And they do use like robots and stuff like that are kind of run down, and also they could summon elementals and all that stuff. So pretty cool.
Yeah, they've got a great style to them from what I've seen from the screenshots. They're just so unique to themselves. And
so for those of you looking at the screenshots, you'll catch in a lot of them, you have this old world look, kind of like, you know, like this stone look, and what we'll do is we'll you know, sprinkle technology into that. And if you look at their like computer screens that they have around, they're like using leather straps, and they have like skulls strapped on them and stuff like that. So literally it's supposed to be kind of like this. You might not pick it up because they're trying to kill you, but it's a little bit tragic that they forgot how to use this stuff, and their huts are all worn down, and they use they salvage like spaceships, and they're trying to be something that they just can't figure out how to be.
Yeah, so techno MacGyver is confirmed.
I find that it's interesting because the level of conflict outside of the game, like, you feel bad for these guys that are coming to like beat on you. It's very interesting how like Exiles and Dominion feel the same way, where like you're not quite sure and something gravitates you to one or the other, but it's like you're saying, these guys are, whether they're just hanging out and you're like, wow, look at their crappy houses, or you happen to move to the next area and all of a sudden it's like, well, I'm not really sure why they're beating me up. I guess I'm in the wrong area. I feel like it's very unique.
Well, I think you know, it's an MMO. We have a lot of combat in the MMO. So eventually, you know, you're gonna kick everything's ass at a certain point in the game. But you know, I work with like me and Chad when we sit down and we come up with these stories. Our thing is like, we're always like, why are these people here, or why are these beings here? You know, like you know, whether it's marauders that are like space pirates and they're coming here, you know, to find Eldan, you know, technology and treasure, like
marauders,
you know,
confirmed,
or
just ignore Beetle, just ignore him.
Or you know, like, or we have like the Pell, who have been on the planet for a very long time, and they're considered more what we call natives, or the Moody's, right? That I think Mike Donatelli likes to call the leprechauns.
The pygmies.
I like to call them Tiki Men from the Moon. You know, that type of vibe.
Yeah, they're awesome, man.
So. You know, like, everybody kind of has this backstory because, you know, even though, you know, we have a lot of stuff in that we don't necessarily get deep into, we want to make sure that you know, when we write the content or the quest around these guys, that our team understands what they're doing, you know, and then artistically we could kind of sell that, you know, because we just make a set of props for all these guys, and then, you know, in each zone it might be different. You know, in one zone they're resurrecting they're trying to create their own god. In another zone they might be trying to do something else, and we need to make sure that the artist understands what they're trying to do. Even though, you know, you're going to go around like, you know, killing them with swords and lasers and everything.
And that's one of the great things. Yes, you may be killing with swords and lasers, but as long as your creative team and your guys are just sitting there and going, you know what, why are these guys in this zone? You know, you're not just popping them in a box and saying, oh, they're guarding rations. No, why are they in here? Oh, they're trying to make a god. And then, like, why are these guys over here? Where did these marauders even come from? Like, stuff just having these little intricacies and little backstories. Like, most of us won't care. Yes, I'm trying to get to the max level. I'm trying to just bust through this stuff.
Right.
Everybody's gonna die. Everybody's gotta die.
Yeah.
But just those little things that when I play back, you know, on like a third alt and I'm like reading, you know, some little lore, I'm like, oh, these guys are here because they're dumb and they can't do anything. Like, that's just awesome, man.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting because, and we've talked about this before, which is, we know we're an MMO. We're not trying to be anything else. We're not trying to be, a single-player RPG like Mass Effect telling a really complex story. That doesn't mean we don't have story. And I think if you're the story guy, if you're the type of player that loves that stuff, we sprinkle little hints of it everywhere, right? And, you know, like if you come to me and you're like, what's the story behind the Eldan? Tell me, I want to know, right? Now, we might not have a quest line that tells you the exact story of the Eldan, but you know, if you do all the Eldan quest lines and you roll alts and you go to different zones, you will get more pieces of the puzzle, right? And then if you go around, you find all the data cubes that the Eldan have left around. Those are actually recordings of what the Eldan were doing here. And it's your choice about whether you want to learn it and put all that stuff together, right?
Whether you put in the effort or not to get that stuff,
It's not like we have a 30-minute cinematic somewhere hidden in the game that everybody's going to get into that's going to explain the whole story. We like to see it as we're creating the setting, and the setting is thousands of little pieces of information that as people play through the game, and if they play through it again, they might get more. And then, you know, we've talked about the end game. We want that world story that now you have the setting, you understand things like who the Pell are and who other races are, and in general what the major conflict was, and in general what happened to the Eldan. And then it sends you on this story, and that's where we could literally say, okay, we know you're going to be at cap, and we could do it chapter by chapter. So, and we're going to do it single player or solo. So if you want to get the story, that's when you really get that kind of more of a single player RPG experience. But it's not until cap, because we can't force you to go one way or the other. If you want to go to one zone or the other and it's the same level, we can't control that. We don't want to control it. You know, we want to give you the freedom, because you might be with your friends, or your friends might be out leveling you, and you know, who knows what it is. So it's very interesting. The MMO space, it offers a lot of challenges, because especially the leveling content is not a controlled environment at all. Like, we don't force you to get every quest. You know, you could grind, you could kill things, you could go into PvP and get XP that way. You know, you could just run dungeons. So the thing about it is you create your best intention, right? And you're like, well, if everybody does everything, they'll get a lot, but you can never assume that people are going to do it that way. So literally you just create this open world where people could run around everywhere, do everything. And then, you know, a dungeon experience, that's an experience where you know that, okay, someone's going to instance into a dungeon with 5 guys, and you could tell, you know, a more linear story. But that dungeon has to be a self-contained story of the greater whole, or chapter of the story of the greater whole, because someone might not run that dungeon before they run the next dungeon, you know? Right. So it's a really interesting challenge, and, you know, having made both single-player games and MMOs, you know, it's something that's very unique to the space, because if you bring in sometimes if you bring in a designer or an artist that comes from that space and they don't understand, they're not MMO gamers, that's a big thing when we recruit. We always ask, every single interview is like, do you play MMOs? Because you want to know if they're going to understand what the final product needs to be. Now, not everybody has to be an MMO gamer, because we got plenty of people that are, but it definitely helps because you have to create assets differently. You have to create stories differently, you have to, combats it, like just the way you animate and you set up those files are completely different from a lot of others out there.
Right. The whole scope is just different.
I wanted to make a remark about that too, because I remember going to PAX, and for those of you who've heard me say this story, sorry, you're going to have to hear it again. Everybody kept saying, you gotta go to this Wildstar. And the night before, they showed me the video, and I was like, I don't like it. They're like, well, what's wrong? And I was like, I don't know, I don't like it. Go in Friday, Nixus is pushing my chair all the way up. You guys are like, we've got this set, it's gonna be so cool, we're introducing ourselves, talking to everybody. It was during the press hour. And there is and I'm saying my opinion, this is my opinion, there is a huge difference between developers I've worked with or talked with who are both gamers and also extremely excited about what they are doing. There's a difference between I have to go outside and shovel and, magically loving shoveling. You guys are doing a job, but you can tell that you're putting a lot into it. I don't want to say heart and soul, but that's really how it comes across. You guys are gamers. You have that perspective where you're like, I played that game. I hated that. Let's sit down and talk about that and how we're going to make that into our game. It's super refreshing. Honestly, I was sold by Saturday. I was like, all right, game on, start calling everybody, round up the troops, we're doing this. And it was because of, it's like a company, everybody has that same enthusiasm, just like whether it's art or lore, it's just, or, the community guys, everybody is just as excited to try and put something out that fits within the confines of what an MMO is, but also is unique as its own MMO.
Like, I think, I can't speak for the industry as a whole, right? But I think if you're a game developer and your goal isn't to make a game that you want to play, then you're probably not in this for the right reasons. Because that's where it really comes down to. And that's really any creative endeavor, right? Like whether you're a filmmaker or, a comic book creator or anything like that. You should love what you do, and now that doesn't mean you can't be critical about it. Like I've done stuff where I look back on it and I'm like, man, if we could only do that and that, but that should be the spark that gets you going. And, the interesting thing, and this was the same way on WoW, when I worked on it, was these games are so big that you can't possibly play them when you're making them, right? Like, sure, I'm the art director, but I probably only can art direct maybe, I want to say 30% of the total space of the game. The game's too big. Like, you can't run through every square foot of that zone or that world and nitpick every little detail of it. You kind of pick your battles, right? And you hope that you establish a style guide and a quality bar with the places you pay attention to, that your artists are going to go off and the designers are going to go off and they're going to keep everything to that level of quality, right? But it's literally impossible. I mean, we're making a game that hopefully, is around like 300 hours, right? And we have to look at stuff. We don't just look at it once and go through. We look at stuff over and over and over and over again. Now, as an art director, I kind of have a more, broad overview of what everybody's working on. But when I was on WoW and I was on the structure team or the dungeon team, like, I only really knew what was going on with dungeons, right? So
Right.
when we were alpha and we were in closed beta, I was playing that game until 4 a.m. every night after working until 10 o'clock at night, and I'd be like, holy crap, who made this? And then I would see a building that I made, and I didn't even know that's how they were going to use it. And you're like, whoa, that's what they're doing with that building? And it was an interesting experience to see your own work, being taken by all these other developers and being used in ways that you never seen. Kind of like what we talked about with housing. You never realize what people are going to do with it. And now that's part of my job is like, okay, I get to set the standard or the overview of this stuff, but I don't know what type of quests are going to go into it. I know the general quest, the general stories. Me and Chad will write zone briefs and we'll talk about, in this area, these guys are doing this or this is going on here. But there's literally hundreds of quests that are semi-related to that, but that we don't dictate at all. They're done by all these content designers. So when I play through the game as a gamer, it's like Christmas. You just go, you're like, oh, look at that quest. Oh, they use that for that. That's really cool. Oh, and it's actually exciting. Whereas, not to say that single player game development is any less exciting, but there is I worked on Daxter for the PSP, and by the time we're done with that game, I'd probably played it, roughly 50 times from beginning to end and seen every single room, every single corridor of that game, because it's all very contained and it's a very linear experience. So when the game comes out, I'm like, okay, I've already played this over and over again. I'm done with it, But with an MMO and post-launch, it's a possibility that some of us might move on to something else, and it's going to be interesting to hand it off. That's how I feel with WoW. It's like I only worked on Vanilla WoW and a little bit of development on Burning Crusade, but the stuff they're doing now, it's just like, whoa, I never even, expected them to do that type of stuff, or wow, they're still using that one texture I painted, or, so it's kind of fun because it's almost like just playing in this world that you've helped create, but you don't actually, it's like Populous or something like that, or The Sims, it's just like, this thing is living and breathing and growing without your knowledge, with your knowledge, but without your attention on it. So you find stuff and you're like, oh my God, this little life form appeared over here and I never thought that would happen. And, that's kind of what making these games are about, because they're so big.
Right, yeah, definitely.
I do.
Oh, you want me to go blank here? I just got one little thing here.
Go ahead, go.
All right. The funny thing you mentioned about the Daxter game, you just could do whatever on it. Is so linear. Just a funny story. When I did some temp work on the Prototype 2 game, there was guys that could do the first 30 minutes without even looking at the screen, because it's just you've done it so much and stuff like that. It's just funny. Yeah,
and don't get me wrong, guys. I actually play more single-player games than anything. I love that experience, I think it's a very unique experience. I just played BioShock Infinite, and man, talk about a great story experience, I don't want to spoil anything. I didn't want to spoil anything. And
let's spoil it.
No. Go play it if you like story in games and you want something that's interesting. You should play it. In terms of gameplay, it's just a first-person shooter with a few extra bells and whistles. It's not rewriting the book, but they definitely did some amazing stuff with their storytelling in that game. So I like to see that. And once again, everything you do comes into your work, right? So there's a pot or influences your work. So these single player games, like me and actually Donatelli, our design director, he played that too, and he kept wanting to spoil it. We sit in the same office together, and he kept wanting to tell me about it, and I was like, I don't have time. I'm working late tonight. I can't play it. Like, just shut up. Don't tell me anything, right? But there's kind of the collectiveness when you have a office full of gamers playing the next new thing and saying, kind of not a plan, but kind of all being influenced by the same stuff at the same time. It's bound to end up in some way influencing the game you're working on.
Definitely.
If everybody's playing, if all of our combat guys are playing League of Legends or something like that every night, there's bounds to be some elements of League of Legends that influence our game, or our combat.
Makes sense.
Like, you just can't help it, like it's not intentional, like, oh, let's go steal this and let's steal that. It's just like it's inspirational, really.
Yeah, so Ignite and Flash confirmed for Wildstar. All right, go ahead.
Wait, is this live?
Everyone's like, why did you guys do a podcast? We were like, because it's so much for to, say things wrong, chew on your words, and mess things up while you're doing it live.
By the way, this is my first ever podcast. So
Yay.
Exclusive.
We had Matt for the first time.
Exclusive.
Matt, I was your first.
Yeah, that's right.
And we're glad to have you here. I'm glad that they could find someone who wanted to, not have to do work right now and come hang out with us instead. So they were like, who doesn't want to work for like an hour or so? Hey, anybody? You were like, oh yeah, me, I'm good.
He's salary. He probably has a couch in his office anyway.
I got a beanbag. I got this big ass beanbag thing. But no one likes to sit in it. I think it's got mold growing on it or something. No one likes to
that
go
just
there.
adds to the character.
Yeah. We are going to move down here. What we're going to do with the rest of the links that we have, we were going to do some transitions, but we're kind of chunking into some time here. I'd like to get into the questions. We're going to make sure that all these links that we collected up about information this week that we felt was super relevant is going to be put up on the information for YouTube. We can do that, right, Atomics?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sweet. And what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little rapid fire question and answer from the viewer questions that we got. Then we'll wrap things up. Sound good to you guys? Good to go?
Yeah, we can rapid fire them. If they're directed at Matt, just be sure to let Matt know. I'm actually going to make another drink real quick.
Listen, can someone refill
go?
mine? Yeah, go. I got you. Go.
Yeah,
Go.
shut up, exclusive stuff. Fellow goblets.
All right, so viewer questions.
Okay.
Let's see here. You probably haven't seen them, so these should be fun. OMFG, why is Woody Harrelson working for Carbine Studios? Do you have a 30-second answer to that?
Because he got fired from Hunger Games. Wait, Woody Harrelson didn't actually get fired from Hunger Games. I'm just saying, that was my...
Confirmed. That's going to be on the forums tomorrow.
You know what? When I started this project, I had hair.
Oh, wow, really? Everyone's going to have the Chad look, right?
Yeah, I can't go full Chad, I can't pull that off. I was Walter White for Halloween, though, and that was pretty epic. I think you could find that on the Carbine Facebook page.
Nice.
So, if you find Walter White on the Carbine Facebook page,
did someone say he was Woody Harrelson?
Yeah, we're going through the questions. All right, let's see. Troy already left, but ask if Troy shared any of the coffee we sent him, or did he hoard it himself? He probably hoarded it himself.
Right here?
Oh, it's right there.
Matt's got it. He's about to eat it.
It's not open, but it smells fantastic.
We need to find a grinder for it first.
I have a grinder at home, so I'll just take it home.
If you bring it in.
All right, Whoever said that, thank you. Matt's going to take it home.
Yeah, I'll take it home. I'll test it out.
and then you'll bring it
Thank
back
you,
here
Bob.
for everybody to share.
Then you bring back, patch notes for the coffee and stuff. You're like, yeah, so this is my review of it.
We have a percolator in the director's office, so we won't let the rest of the team have it, but we'll make it the director's coffee.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, get those brains going.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, here we
All right,
go.
rapid fire.
Andy wants to know, as much as you'd like to speak to, how important is character creation to the art team? I'm sure it's really important, but I don't like to speak for my team because some people might not care at all. But character creation is actually probably one of the most important things to me. And in its current form, it's in a beta form. But we have big plans for it, and I constantly want to hear feedback about character creation because it is the first thing that people experience, and if that's a bad experience or they can't find something that they like, then we failed right there before people get into the game. So really important. Extremely important. I was pretty sure it was important, but people want to hear from you.
Blank scroll up to Scooter
it's actually my personal pet project on the team. I'm always the guy pushing for more. So.
Nice, we appreciate that.
Absolutely. Gonna skip over color palette question. Apologies there.
We have lots of
talking
colors.
about the Draken. I was gonna say I think they were aiming for the range of colors, but that sounds super boring. So we're gonna keep scrolling. Sorry, someone's gonna be like
out there.
Every color's another man.
You heard today. I guarantee you, every color in existence is in our game. Every single one.
Every color in existence.
Guaranteed.
Confirmed.
Blue and green, all of it.
It's
Are
all
there
blue,
any MMO
right?
games in general that inspire the environment character art direction? I believe they said it's like a mishmash. Well, because
Any
it's
MMOs?
I think the question was more, what other games in general that might inspire the character and environmental art direction?
We're more inspired by a lot of anime and animation and comic book stuff. In terms of games, though, I'd say that definitely when TF2 came out, they were we had already established our art style, but they were very close, and we took a close look at how they were doing certain shader stuff because our shader stuff wasn't online. But I know a lot of it is like Mark of Cree was a really big influencer. Man, like those are the ones that pop in my head in terms of stuff that were direct influencers. A lot of Avalanche Studios stuff, like TAC, has really good environment stuff and really nice hand-painted textures. That's the only thing I could really think of in terms of what we really try to do with our environments is we just do paintings, and we try to match the paintings as much as possible, or the drawings, right? We didn't say, hey, let's try to make this look like this game. We said, how can we make this look like a 3D painting with all these angles and all this stylization? Because, usually stylization is really difficult because you have to have a very keen artistic eye, and you have to know how to translate things to 3D. So that translation process of going from a 2D image to a 3D image is super important to us. In fact, I'll give you another example. When we hire artists on the team, 3D artists, we'll give them a concept, and we just say the instructions are make it look as close to the concept as you possibly can. And that's the test. And some people, they literally make it, and you can't tell the difference between what is the concept art and what is the 3D model. So that's pretty much what we do.
I'd say you're pretty close to nailing it too.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
They've been covered in the video. Right,
Blank Nixus is trying to highlight ones that are directed towards Matt so we can get him out of here sooner. Not that I don't like it.
He's got to go home. He's got to rest.
Go home.
Let's see. What aspect?
He's got to go meet Troy at whatever
Carbine.
bar Troy's at.
I know. Like, hey, dude, they wouldn't stop talking. Where are the drinks at, bro? Here.
Do you want me to pick my favorite questions from this list?
Yes,
I would
would.
love for you, Scoots.
You pick out the questions. Let's hear them.
I lost them already.
I love how you just slowly slide your head into the frame too. He's just like,
and like Matt like slowly inches away.
Can we ask those questions into Wildstar Central, and maybe you could answer them later, Matt, when you have time?
Oh yeah, we could definitely do something like that. We can grab some of the extra
Any-
questions.
anything that we miss.
That'd be awesome.
I'm good. Do we want to do another?
Yeah, let's grab a couple more of these real quick because I just want to hit the ones that I really like.
Don't worry about me. I'm good. So
Matt, I'm worried.
Let's get some.
We're worried about that.
I can tell the look on your
I'm
face.
just going to open the coffee and just start chewing on
I'm getting
it.
another drink. So.
Wait, everybody's just walking away.
start
What is
eating
going
the
on here?
Did everybody? Time out. Did everybody just leave me? Who's here? I don't know.
What's going on here?
I'm just gonna voyeur into people's apartments now.
He's got a nice like IKEA setup there.
Dude,
Interesting.
Matt,
yeah.
check this out.
Yeah.
All right, so we got white wall, air mattress.
Yeah.
Air mattress.
Oh, nice.
Can I go again with that air mattress?
It's environmentally friendly, that air.
We've got a medium-sized George Foreman box on the ground.
Just
George
the box.
Foreman grill. Yeah, the grill, of course, I use every day. I mean,
I thought you meant you didn't have the grill. You just had the grill box. You know,
yeah, I just bought the box
You're good.
at a garage sale.
It doesn't cook very well, that box.
I can hear my air mattress leaking as we speak.
Is that the life working as a developer? That's the life, isn't it? It's like, come work for us. We all sleep on air mattresses and we all drink like fish. No, that's what it's like, isn't it?
This is the life of temporary QA. Carbine guys might know. This is the life of temporary QA.
Temp QA?
Oh, Beetle.
I gotta make my bucks somehow if I have to move from place to place. Until Carbine calls me and is like, hey dude, you can live with Matt. It's cool.
That's right. You heard it now. Anybody can move in with me.
Beetle and Matt living together, confirmed.
I'll be working, but...
Bring a new beanbag chair and you're good to go.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Any more questions? Are we good?
Any questions?
All right.
Here, who we got feedback coming from? I got some feedback.
No
It's
idea.
probably your brain.
Hurts.
The yellow are the ones that Scooter said we should ask?
Yeah, I'm marking the
those
ones
are ones
together,
that-
but that way you guys can ask them.
Yeah.
All right,
You
yellow.
want me to take it, Blank,
Is
or
that
you got
feedback
it?
from us?
I got you. This question comes from R-Wolf. What aspect of your role in Wildstar development are you most proud of? Any specific contribution come to mind?
Well, that's interesting. What I'm most proud of is the fact that I have roughly 60 guys under me, and every day I've created an environment where they could just create awesome art, and they don't have to work on a game that that they don't enjoy creating assets for because they don't like the look or it's not fun or anything like that. So my pride really comes in my team, less of my personal contributions. So that's my pride and joy. Like, I always get choked up when I'm like, I've got my babies and you're all grown up now, you make art. But sorry, was that weird? They're not my babies.
A little bit.
That would definitely not my babies.
Oh, none of them are watching.
All right, so Matt's
they're
baby's
probably
confirmed.
all, yeah. But in terms of my personal favorite thing, to do is the personality videos that we put out. We put out the housing, the Exile, the Dominion. This is a part of, as a game developer, I never thought I would ever be involved in this, and it's just me and a few other guys, Chad, our cinematics lead, Seth. We just sit together in the office and we'll write a script out, and then we just hop in a car up to Hollywood, get some talent, and you know, I don't think we've always posted who does these voices, but the next one we're about to release, I think we're going to release it in less than a month. The character is the voice that the actress does Cartman's mom on South Park.
Oh, baby.
So it's very interesting that I had a chance to voice direct or co-voice direct Cartman's mom, you know? Is that us? I don't know.
I don't know who that is.
All right. Who's doing it?
It's not us.
If you can't hear it, mute yourself. Oh, no.
And
Test? No. It might be Aegon again. Poor
no,
Aegon.
not me.
All right. Everything's muted.
Okay.
You muted yourself.
So anyway, for me, that's when I'm like a kid in a candy store, right? I really like going into a professional recording studio and having these actors like, Kit, the character from the Exile video. That's the actress that does Foxy Love on Drawn Together on Comedy Central. And,
that was a quality show.
Yeah, someone came by the booth at PAX, and they're like, "Are you guys doing a Drawn Together thing?" And I was like, "Or a Drawn Together game?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Oh, I heard Foxy Love's voice, and I thought that you guys had a Drawn Together game." And I was like, "No, that's just the voice of our character."
That one hardcore fan for coming by PAX looking for the Drawn Together.
He was really
game.
excited. He was like, "Oh, Wildstar. Oh, I'm not interested in that," you know. Yeah. But so I think, for me, that is kind of where, like, I love those days that we're just sitting in the studio and we laugh our asses off. We're recording the VO for the What is Wildstar trailer with Fred Tatasciore. Maybe one day we'll release the uncensored version of What is Wildstar audio. That guy is amazing. It's so funny. We were just cracking up the whole day. So those are the good
Red
moments.
Band on it, you'll be fine. Just put it on YouTube and say it's Red Band.
Yeah.
Nobody will judge it.
20 or whatever it is.
Peggy 13.
All right. We're going to keep moving here. Trucking through the questions here.
Yeah, come on, Matt.
Fate Fire. Question is, Matt, one of my favorite games in recent history is Journey, which is well known for conveying mood through its art direction. How do you communicate the feel of a location and the mood of each area in Wildstar? Nice question, by the way.
That is a
great
deep
question. And by the way, great game. Love Journey. Can't get enough of it. I was so jealous of Journey. After I played it, I came in and I told all of our world team, I was like, everybody, your homework is to go play this game and learn from it.
Nice homework.
Well, the thing we like to do is we'll start with the overall story of what's going on in the area, right? So it all starts with kind of the story or the setting that me and Chad establish. And really, it's all about lighting and fog and color and making sure you have the proper palette, You do want people to feel, have different moods. And considering, with our game being an MMO, it's very important to try to have as many unique things as you possibly can. So we're like, oh, this is the fun place and this is the creepy place. And you might have 5 different types of creepy, and you have to figure out how to do creepy differently than you did it the last time. But really, it's just with your color palette, your lighting, your fog. Music comes huge into that. I work with Charlie and Jeff Kurtnacker, our composer.
The Kurtnacker?
And yeah,
there it is.
We call him the Hurtnacker. He likes to box. So
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, it's all that stuff. But the one thing that is probably going to be contentious with some people out there is, and we've been asked this a lot, do we have dynamic weather? And we have the capability of doing dynamic weather, but I actually have I want to use weather as a way to convey mood. And so I don't want to sudden start raining in a zone. I want to use the rain to build intensity. So you might be making your way through a zone, and it starts like kind of cloudy, and then as you progress into another area, it starts to drizzle, and then by the time you get to the end, it's the most violent lightning storm of all time, right? Hail and wind and everything's going crazy. And I like having that tool in my toolbox to be able to convey more mood in the game than I would just having dynamic weather where I can't control it. So maybe I'm a little bit of a control freak on that end, but I think that when you're climbing, to the top of the mountain fortress, and you start at the bottom and it's clouds and the sun's peeking through, and as you make your way up, it's getting more and more violent, and the music is getting more and more intense. It's really going to convey that, as you do it. And that's something that I haven't seen too much in a lot of modern MMOs. I know Guild Wars does a lot of it, but it's something I haven't seen a lot of.
Yeah, Guild Wars actually has an interesting weather machine in their open PvP, which actually plays a part in their open world, which I know you guys aren't talking about. You don't have plans for open world right now. I'm sure you want it. I want it. War plots will do for now, and I'm sure they're going to be badass. And yeah, hail confirmed for everybody keeping track in the chat. Blank, what do you got next for a question there, boss?
Next one comes from XTrue57. Question is, this may have been covered in a video, but will there be both female and male versions of each race? Or are some restricted to male or female?
Short answer. That's a trick question.
We haven't said.
So I'll say this. All the announced races have both male and female.
Uh-oh. Yeah. Mind blow.
I think we have a special guest.
Oh my gosh, we have a special guest in the house. Michael Donatelli.
Who is it?
Oh, the Popatelli.
The Pope.
Hey,
Pope's in the house.
We're working late.
He's got a
product placement there.
He's like totally coming in and talking to people. He's like, oh, what are you guys doing?
Hey, Scooter, tell him. Or Matt, tell him
while they're playing, let's go on with the questions. All right. So
the next question is, I don't know why people ask to be shot or not, but where gear art is concerned, are we going to see static colors, or might dye/color customization be an option?
Back to work.
Hang on. I didn't hang on.
You're back to work.
I heard something about static colors or dyes. In terms of character customization, or in terms
gear art.
Gear, we have we have a full dye system. So
full dye system.
So you're going to be able to dye a lot of stuff on that gear.
Blank, if I could dive a little further into that.
Sure.
How, I guess this is going to be a tough one. How many would you say off the top of your head, would you say unique armor models do you have? Are there, we haven't seen a ton, but are there helmets for races? I mean, we've seen a couple screens with random helmets, but are helmets at level, while you're leveling up?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of unique armor sets, And we're saying an armor set is a whole set, like shoulder pads, helmet.
Let's say like your chainmail, plate mail, whatever.
I want to say we have around 200.
Oh, 200 good God.
unique sets. That might also include costumes, but I'm not sure. But I want to say around 200. And all those are dyeable. So and probably 200 might be a little bit high, but it's somewhere around there. And I think somewhere around 60 unique weapons, something like that, per awesome. Race, or not per race, per class.
Per class. All right.
So, quite a bit. And you know, for us, what we want to do is we want to make sure that, there's enough to keep people interested, right? And we want to make sure that we don't overdo it, and getting a new visual on a piece of armor doesn't mean anything. I think there's a sweet spot, and as we go through beta, it's one of the things we're paying attention to is, do people feel like they're getting stuff early? I will say this though. Let me do a quick thing about the armor.
Bring it.
I feel like our low-level armor will be the best-looking low-level armor of any game that has actual item progression. Okay, like I know there's some. I know that there's a lot of games that don't do traditional item progression, like you get gray gear and then you level up, right? Some it's just you make that costume and that's yours forever, right? But both me and Jeremy Gaffney, our executive producer, we feel like giving people the tattered rags or the super lame, like leather. Basically, the first sword you get isn't going to be a board, a 2x4,
Right.
It's not going to be rusty, old decrepit thing. It's going to look cool. And the things get cooler and cooler and cooler as you advance. And I don't quite know yet how we're going to make better looking gear than the raid gear, but we'll figure it out. So
everybody wants to be a badass. It comes down to that, If you can make someone feel cool at level 15 and they're like, hell yeah, they're going to stay in for that extra 3 hours and be like, they're going to go to town and be like, check out this sword, mother. It's just going to be...
And the main reason why we haven't shown helmets in the screenshots is because we're trying to show more of the character faces and the varieties and stuff like that. So I actually tell everybody, don't wear helmets as much because it covers everything up, and we want to show that
helmet
stuff off
hide
first.
Option?
So
helmet hide option?
Yeah.
Helmet hide option.
Isn't that the requirement nowadays? Is there any?
It really is.
Do that? Yeah.
For some reason, Guild Wars did shoulder pad hide option, which I don't understand because everybody loves pauldrons. Everybody's all about pauldrons these days. But bearded helmets will have to be put in the pipeline soon if you guys need to crank those out. Let's go to the next question.
The hide option only doing the helmet, not the beard.
Yeah.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Only the helmet hide option, but not the beard on the bearded helmet.
Yeah.
So no matter what, you have the beard.
The next question, and Tomix, if you can load up our special package that's going to be coming up here next.
It's ready to go, so let me know when you want it.
Okay, the next, and I believe the last question that we have here is there already an idea of what the Eldan look like, or are they still faceless at Carbine?
Ooh.
Don't look at us. He's the one who was like, you should ask this question.
That is an excellent question. All right, I'll be perfectly honest with you guys. At one point,
they're all Robert Downey Jr.
They all look like Woody Harrelson.
Oh dear.
I'll be honest with you guys. At one point, we did have a visual for the Eldan, and we decided that when we developed the story a little bit more in depth and tried to make it more of a mystery, I said, you know what? We're not going to show them. And the reason why, and they're like, okay, well, we need to concept what they look like. All my artists were like that, right? And I said, no, let's not do it. And they're like, why not? And I was like, because the thing about artists is they like to be influenced by a certain thing. So what I didn't want to happen was to design the Eldan, and then all of a sudden that imagery is showing up in the Eldan devices and the, like the Eldan architecture and dungeons and stuff like that, because then it kind of gives away the secret. So I'll tell you what we did do. You guys all know that well, not all you guys are going to know the lore. So the lore behind the Lumini. No? No. Okay. Oh. Never mind. Oh. I'm being cut off.
Scooter coming in with the knockout.
So let me get back to the question. So, no, we do not have a look of the Eldan in Carbine today. Yes, we plan on doing a look for the Eldan if and when we ever decide to reveal them in the game.
Let's basically, Matt, you can probably agree with me. Let's basically call them the Dunmer, or Dwemer, excuse me, the Dwemer of the Elder Scrolls franchise. You never really see the face of them. It's kind of the mystery right now, and you see it through the architecture, through the bots, stuff like that. Absolutely.
And I kind of want people to have that fun experience of, you see a robot and you might be like, ooh, is that an Eldan? And then you find out it's an Eldan bot, but then you ask yourself, well, is that what they look like? And
is it in their image? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we have roughly like 4 or 5 Eldan robots that, although they share similar thematical looks and details, they're very different in silhouette. Some are biped, some have 3 legs, some are floating, right? And they're all created for very specific purposes by the Eldan. And I want everybody out there to look at the Eldan architecture, to look at the devices, the robots, everything, and I really want them to try to figure it out. And the great thing is it's all in your head, and if we just I'm so worried that if we had that anywhere, it would influence my art team and that we would just spoil it for you guys. So we really have to keep that a secret from ourselves. Now, I personally know how I want them to look in my head, but we haven't put it on paper yet. So.
All right.
Good to know.
All right.
Should we? We're
going to move forward from here, and what we're going to do is we're going to get to a lot of the questions that were asked tonight, guys, because of having a special guest and having a community artist on. We had to restructure the show, so what we're going to do is make sure that all the information that's been put into the episode that we may not have been able to talk in detail about will be put both on the YouTube link and also up at Wildstar Central, and the questions will be posted there. If and when, our wonderful developers here get a chance to go over and take a stab at a couple, I'm sure they will. They're awesome like that. And while I finish this up, our big surprise that was given to us by the man who's hiding to Matt's left.
Drum roll.
Left or right over there. I'm going to post those on up here. Should have about 15 seconds or so with each, I believe. These are some wonderful pictures for you guys to look at. Did you want to talk about those, Mr.
Let them go
Man?
pretty slow there, sure. Aegon.
So this is one of our early zones called the Crimson Isle. And the story here is that the Draken have been sent in as kind of like a black ops to shut down the Exiles from setting up a base close to their territory. So not only are you dealing with the Exiles, the Exile problem, there's also some people here or things here that kind of own and live on this island, and it all culminates in this giant battle over this piece of Eldan technology that everybody's trying to get their hands on. So, yeah, and I think that's a level 3 through 6 zone. So pretty early on in the game.
Well, guys, this is when we start wrapping things up here. So I'm going to say thank you to our developers at Carbine for taking the time tonight to come and chat with us. We look forward to hopefully seeing some of you folks again here in the future. Big thanks to Evion for stopping by, giving us a little perspective of a community artist.
Thank you, Evion. Thank you, Matt, for those great answers, man. You did great.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun.
Thank you very much for coming along.
Yep.
And like I said, we'll make sure to get all the information that we might have briefly mentioned. Get that up both on YouTube and over at Wildstar Central. We do want to make sure that you follow this Twitch channel, that you follow us on Twitter, check us out on Facebook, so that way you can know when things are going on. And that's all we got for tonight. So thank you guys so much for stopping by.
Yep.
Hope everyone enjoyed the show, and we will see you next week.
Sorry, blank. And each of our Twitters individually is in our names here above our heads. Thanks again to Matt Mocarski for stopping by. Do we want to give any shout-outs? Anybody who has questions that weren't directed at Matt but would like some of us to take a shot at them, you can find us on Wildstar Central. I will take any and all PMs, anything on there. You can find all of us under our respected handles. If you need any questions, anything about the game. Do we want to, Orochi, do you want to give a quick shout-out to the Child's Play event coming up?
Yep, our Child's Play event is progressing along. We have maybe some really cool, exciting swag from Carbine, but we're going to hide that to next week. Maybe a blurry picture show up sometime soon. Secret, big secret. More secret than any of the artwork. It's amazing stuff. It's so good that we don't want to give it away. If you scroll down, you may find there's a little link. You can donate some money towards the cause and help out some sick children enjoy themselves while they're stuck in hospital, playing some decent computer games. Maybe if they're lucky or they get to play Wildstar.
Yeah, and for that Child's Play event, we will be doing a 24-hour marathon. It will be all community-based. We want to play with you guys. Maybe we'll try to get Matt in there. Maybe we can shoot him in some TF2 or something like that.
Yep.
We'll be playing all.
I've been told by Troy some devs should hopefully turn up.
Yeah,
so we should be getting some devs to come.
Playing. We will be playing all free-to-play games, so if you'd like to go over to our thread on Wildstar Central and put up some free-to-play games, we'll thread out the list before the event happens so everybody can get them all installed, get ready to go, and we'll have a good time and help some kids out.
Awesome.
It'd be pretty
Sounds
epic.
good. So, again, check out the Child's Play event. You can catch most of us hanging out on Wildstar Central, and thanks for stopping in. It was a great time. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Peace out.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.